It only took the dog a second to deal with the and supporting the dog from both sides. They walked the dog, whose rear legs stopped working, across the road. The reaction speed of this Doberman is impressive. It only took the dog a second to deal with the snake. A coyote wandered into the city streets and attacked a teenage girl walking her dog. While the girl tried to escape, the dog bravely defended its owner from the predator. This girl had a seizure while walking her dog, and this huge hound named Clover stopped a truck to help his owner. People usually stay away from stray dogs, but it turns out they can be loyal protectors. A robber attacked a young woman in the middle of the street. A stray protected the girl by chasing the thief away. It's not just dogs that can assist disabled people. For example, this horse can help a person get up if they fell, and can even collect some firewood. This dog is trying to save a fish. Many people could learn to be as compassionate as this dog. During an earthquake, this dog escorted people out of the unstable building and then returned to get other pets. A loyal Rottweiler decided that its owner was drowning and quickly found and rescued the human. It's a good thing that this man took a dog with him to work. The burglar clearly did not expect such resistance. The owner even had to hold back the dog so that it wouldn't tear into the thief. Check out the way this dog called Magnus helps his disabled owner. The man fully relies on the dog when outside. Due to the nature of his disability, Magnus's owner can't even operate his wheelchair. His loving and loyal dog performs the function of an engine for the wheelchair. No one trained him to do that. He's just more compassionate and humane than some humans.
Goat in the water.
You probably didn't know that pigs are great swimmers. Take a look. In this petting zoo, a pig rescued a baby goat whose leg got stuck underwater. The pig immediately came to the goat's rescue. We are used to dogs rescuing people, but sometimes dogs rescue other dogs. Two animals found themselves in a drifting canoe, and the third one came to their aid. It's amazing that the dog in the canoe managed to pass the rope to the dog in the water. This golden retriever saved two goldfish that ended up on the floor. Very carefully, the dog carried the fish into its water bowl. We wonder how the dog knew what to do. Tell us your theory in the comments. Cats can also rescue other cats. 4 large dogs attacked a kitten, but the adult cat quickly showed them who's in charge. These 2 dogs organized an entire mission to rescue the fish that was stuck in the shallow water. Look how determinedly they dug a channel for this fish to swim away.
Всё, ты его отпустил, молодец!
A man in a wheelchair was trying to cross a flooded road, but refused help because his loyal friend was pushing the wheelchair from behind. This dog bravely threw itself into the water to rescue a drowning person. Now this guy owes the dog his life. A baby elephant fell into the pool in the zoo. Its parents immediately came to its rescue. They went into the water and supported the calf as they walked towards the dry land. In search of food, this bear wandered into a yard of private property. The dog noticed an uninvited guest and chased the hooligan away. Take a look at the way this hero saves a puppy that fell into a pool. You should never be nasty to babies. 3 stray dogs forgot this rule and attacked a kitten, but an adult cat interjected just in time. We all know that bulldogs are strong dogs with a muscular build, but not all bulldogs are the same. These little French bulldogs are so adorable. This small dog managed to chase away 2 bears and protect their owners from these uninvited guests. And with a dog like this, kids can safely use the pool. This dog will immediately rescue a drowning person.
He's like, come on, Mama, let's go. Aww.
Sometimes cats treat people like their kittens. Some will even attempt to
Put your hustle on pause for now. Now below, the refreshing taste of arrival.
rescue a person. Why are these humans voluntarily getting into water? They need help immediately, Daphne the cat must have thought, trying to drag her owner out of the bath. After the winter hibernation, bears are very hungry. In search of food, they often end up approaching people's homes. And hungry bears are very dangerous. Look at this dog chasing away an overly cheeky bear. An aggressive goose attacked a person, but the dog could carefully drag the bird away without any injuries. Things could have ended up much worse. But thankfully, it ended well. A dog saw a drowning person in the river. Pay attention to its further actions. The man was already disappearing underwater, but the dog got to him just in time. Say you got a large dog and you thought it would protect you from everything. Think again. Here are the real protectors. Didn't expect that, did you? Take a look. This man is enjoying hanging out with lions, but the tiger was the only one to notice the looming danger. Not only notice, but prevent a tragedy. A burglar broke into a house and attacked a defenseless owner, but he clearly didn't expect such resistance. Just look at this. With security like this, you can use an ATM even in the most dangerous neighborhood.
story is anything to go by, maybe they're not quite as terrifying as we think. Note, they are. In 2005, a 12-year-old Ethiopian girl was abducted by 4 men while walking home from school. Just a week later, the police managed to track them down, as they were about to escape with her. But there was a problem. The abductors happened to come face to face with 3 African lions that promptly chased them off, leaving the girl behind. While this would usually be a pretty tragic ending to the story, the lions really didn't harm the girl at all. They stayed with her through the ordeal, standing guard and protecting her until the police eventually found her. The lions then headed back into the wild, apparently satisfied with their good deed. African media called the incident a miracle of God, and it's definitely worthy of the title. Lions don't usually behave like this, which only makes it more incredible. Before we go on, like this video, smash the subscribe button, and click the notification bell right now, or this centipede will crawl on your face when you're sleeping. Number 14. Sea Lion Rescue. We never know what's going on in the heads of others, which is why it's so important to check in with people and protect our own mental health. But don't worry, because this is a heartwarming and uplifting story about the power of nature. In 2000, Kevin Hines had reached rock bottom. Suffering from bipolar disorder and depression, he felt his life was spiraling out of control. Rather than go on living an unpleasant existence, he decided to just end it all. Soon after, Hines was standing on the Golden Gate Bridge and took that big leap into the unknown. Only, Hines didn't die. Upon landing, Hines painfully shattered 3 vertebrae and realized he had made a mistake. He didn't want to die. Thankfully, a nearby sea lion didn't want him to die either, and kept pushing him up above the water's surface until the Coast Guard eventually arrived to collect him. Hines would later say that this sea lion saved his life. Hines began a program designed to help him deal with his depression, and had since used his story and experiences to inspire others, and urge those struggling with mental health struggles to talk about it. Number 13. Whale Saves Woman. Marine biologists see a whole lot of stuff out there in the big underwater world, but there's a lot of stuff they don't see, like the megalodon or dolphins playing poker, that kind of thing. And apparently it's near unheard of to see whales protecting humans. While on a research expedition in the Cook Islands, marine biologist Nan Hauser was a little bit confused by what seemed like a very pushy humpback whale. While Hauser assumed that the whale was just curious about what she was doing, she quickly became aware that something was going on. Maybe the whale was angry at her, or perhaps it was just scared. Well, actually it was a whole other thing. Hauser quickly realized that this 50,000-pound animal was not really interested in
To the ancient Egyptians, death was not the end of life, but only the beginning of the next phase, in an individual's eternal journey. There was no word in ancient Egyptian, which corresponds to the concept of death, as usually defined as ceasing to live. Since death was simply a transition to another phase of one's eternal existence. The attitude of ancient Egyptians towards death was influenced by their belief in immortality. To ensure the continuity of life after death, people paid homage to the gods, both during and after their life on earth. When they died, they were mummified, so the soul would return to the body, giving it breath and life. Household equipment, and food and drink, were placed on offering tables outside the tomb's burial chamber, to provide for the person's needs, in the afterworld. Written funerary texts, consisting of spells or prayers, were also included to assist the dead on their way to the afterworld. The rituals concerning mourning the dead never dramatically changed in all of Egypt's history, and are very similar to how people react to death today. One might think that, knowing their loved one was on a journey to eternal happiness, or living in paradise, would have made the ancient Egyptians feel more at peace with death. But this is clearly not so. Inscriptions mourning the death of a beloved wife, or husband, or child, all express the grief of loss. How they miss the one who has died. How they hope to see them again someday in paradise. But do not express the wish to die, and join them anytime soon. There are texts which express a wish to die. But this is to end the sufferings of one's present life, not to exchange one's mortal existence for the hope of eternal paradise. The prevailing sentiment among these ancient Egyptian texts, in fact, is perfectly summed up by Hamlet in Shakespeare's famous play. The undiscovered country, from whose bourne no traveller returns, puzzles the will, and makes us rather bear those ills we have, than fly to others that we know not of. The Egyptians loved life, celebrated it throughout the year, and were in no hurry to leave it, even for the kind of paradise their religion promised. Death is before me today, like a man's yearning to see his home, after passing many years in exile. A debate between a man and his soul is a masterpiece of ancient Egyptian literature, known as wisdom literature. It is also called a dispute over suicide, or the man who was weary of life. This literary work focuses on the subject of suicide, and tries to give an answer to the bewildering question: should a man, whose miseries are unbearable, commit suicide? But at no point does he seem to think he will find a better existence on the other world. He simply wants to end the misery which he is feeling at the moment. To prepare the dead for the journey to the afterworld, the opening of the mouth ceremony was performed on the mummy and the mummy case by priests. This elaborate ritual involved purification, burning incense, anointing, and incantations, as well as touching the mummy with ritual objects, to restore the senses, the ability to speak, touch, see, smell, and hear. The opening of the mouth ceremony dates back to at least the Pyramid Age. The journey to the afterworld was considered full of danger. Traveling on a solar bark, the mummy passed through the underworld, which was inhabited by serpents armed with long knives, fire-spitting dragons, and reptiles with 5 ravenous heads. Upon arriving in the realm of the Duat, land of the gods, the deceased had to pass through 7 gates, reciting accurately a magic spell at each stop. If successful, they arrived at the Hall of Osiris, the place of judgment. To the ancient Egyptians, the judgment of the dead was the process that allowed the Egyptian gods to judge the worthiness of the souls of the deceased. Deeply rooted in the Egyptian belief of immortality, judgment was one of the most important parts of the journey through the afterlife. Many variations of judgment scenes appear in the Egyptian afterlife texts. Each soul that entered the afterlife was handled individually during judgment. Once the deceased finished their journey through the underworld, they arrived at the Hall of Maat, goddess of justice. Here, their purity would be the determining factor in whether they would be allowed to enter the kingdom of Osiris. The deceased's first task was to correctly address each of the 42 assessors of Maat by name, while reciting the sins they did not commit during their lifetime. This process allowed the dead to demonstrate that they knew each of the judges' names, and established that they were pure and free of sin. After confirming that they were sinless, the deceased was presented with the balance that was used to weight their heart against the feather of Maat. Anubis was the god often seen administering this test. If the deceased's heart balanced with the feather of Maat, Thoth, the god of learning and reckoning, would record the result, and they would be presented to Osiris, who admitted them into the Sekhet Aru, the ancient Egyptian paradise. However, if their heart was heavier than the feather, it was to be devoured by Ammit, goddess of divine retribution, permanently destroying the soul of the deceased. Sekhet Aru, the field of reeds, was the final destination for all souls who had been granted rebirth. This concept evolved in the 5th dynasty. Sekhet Aru was essentially thought to be a marvelous paradise. The field of reeds was visualized as a very lush region, filled with waterfalls and other natural wonders. This paradise is divided into separate islands, where travel by board is necessary. Those who were granted access to the field of reeds included both gods and righteous souls.
Thousands of years ago, the ancient Egyptians believed that the soul continued to exist after death, then journeyed to another world. Yet some Egyptians believe the soul returns to Earth and reincarnates in a new physical body. Is the current Dalai Lama evidence of the rebirth of someone who lived before? Why was he chosen to become spiritual head of one of the world's great faiths? Though it may have once been central to Judaism and Christianity, the idea of reincarnation was eventually stifled by church and synagogue.